Rico Bailey is a film location scout and a location manager. We met on the set of Black Sails back in 2013. The job of a location scout allows you to discover beautiful sights, to be in the outdoors a lot, and to get to work directly with the film director and the key departments of a film production. There's also much more behind this profession, and yes, paperwork is part of it. But enough with me, here's Rico. Great stuff, Rico. I'm so happy to have you on my podcast. I've wanted to interview you for a long time and then we lost track, but you are now in New Zealand, so far away from where I am. Please tell me actually, what are you doing in New Zealand right now?
We've come to New Zealand. We're working on a TV project. It's a story of, I suppose we kind of always have to be careful about how much information we give. So I've got to kind of
Yes,
keep it a little
please.
bit low key. If I can just say it's an international project with an international actor. They've come over to New Zealand, even though the story is based in another country and they have shot in that other country before. They've come to New Zealand because the landscapes are the same. We've got very beautiful beaches and mountains in New Zealand, and so they brought this TV series here for another 6 months filming in New Zealand. I'm sorry, I know that doesn't give you
Wow.
much information, but I get very wary about giving that kind of information out because sometimes
Yeah,
they like to keep
yeah,
these
for
things a
sure.
secret. But yes, I guess yeah, in a nutshell, it's a TV series, and it'll be going out on one of the major kind of TV networks.
Okay. And are you still doing the same job as when we met? So location scout.
A location scout, and then kind of looking after locations.
Yeah.
Here in New Zealand, of course, we're starting from the beginning again. So I'm working in a team that kind of sets up the locations and runs the logistics of the set. So, the kind of
Mm.
locations, the main job initially is to find the location. As a location department, is to send out scouts to find the location. And then if
Hmm.
the location is approved and they like that location, there's a whole sequence of getting permissions and getting everybody on board to shoot at those locations.
So basically, yeah, in a nutshell, your job is where does it start and where does it end? Because of course, people who watch a movie or TV series probably have an idea, maybe a glamorous idea, also of a location scout. And I would like you to tell me the glamorous and the non-glamorous sides of your job.
I guess, just to kind of explain how the whole process works, in the film industry, obviously you have quite a few different departments, whether it be locations or camera or set dressing or the art department. We all start off by getting a script and we
Hmm.
read the script and we break it down to the things that are relevant to us. So for example, if the scene starts in the script and it's, I don't know, a lady waking up in a hotel room, she grabs a cup of coffee and she walks to the window and looks out at a cityscape. Each person in that department reads that differently. So the hair and makeup person will look at that and go, "Oh, she's getting out of bed, so she must have like the hair must be unruly." The props guy will look, "Oh, she's grabbing the coffee cup, so what kind of coffee cup it is." The set dressers are thinking how they're going to decorate this room, and then from a locations point of view, you're going to ask, "Well, is this hotel? Is it a fancy hotel or is it a run-down hotel?" Because that kind of sets the
Mm.
scene for you know the introduction of the film. So the first thing that we do is we look at all these, we read the script and we break it down. Each time you go to a new scene, it's probably going to be in a new location. And we write that down in I suppose everyone does it differently, but I write it down in a spreadsheet. And that gives me
Hmm.
maybe 30 or 40 locations that we're going to have to look at for this movie. And then we
Okay.
send out scouts. Sometimes I'll go scouting, but for the most part, we send out scouts who probably know the area better than we do. They take photographs of various sites and they bring that back to us, which we then present to the director or the production. After a while, we'll start getting a feel of where the director wants to go. So I could show him, say, for example, it is a hotel room. I can show him 5 different hotel rooms. Some can be the most fanciest hotel, and some could be a really rundown hotel. And if he says, "Oh, I want this rundown hotel," then you start getting a feeling for what this movie is going to look like. And once the director chooses that, we go and visit the location with the director, probably some of the art department, who look at the location and go, oh, well, this room is lovely, and we've chosen this room, and this is how we're going to decorate it, and this is how we're going to shoot it. And then we go, and then it's up to us as location people to start working on the logistics. So we have to get permission from, just to say it's a hotel room, we have to get permission from the hotel to be able to film there. We have
Yeah.
to get permission to from the, I guess, from the city if we're going to be parking our trucks and stuff outside the location. We need space for, I guess, what people don't really appreciate, where the like the non-glamorous part comes in, is how much actually is involved in shooting just the simplest of scenes. You know, you can have
Mm.
one person in a hotel room, but you have about 300 or 250, 300 people that are involved in shooting that scene. You got
Yeah.
so you have, all the equipment, so the lighting guys, the grips guys, the camera guys, they all come with trucks. All their gear is in trucks. So those trucks have to get close to the location, so you've got to find a place for that. Then you need a base camp, which you need to park the makeup trucks and the costume trucks and all the logistical trucks. You put up a big tent because if you have if say it's a big location with lots of extras, then you have 150 people, for example, that have to get made up and dressed. They all come in cars, so everything needs space. So you need to get, so it's
Mm.
another part of the job, is to get space for everybody. And
Okay.
then, yeah, then to consult people. So say it's not a hotel room, say we are shooting in the middle of a street and a car arrives and the couple gets out and they walk into, I don't know, into a cafe or something. Might look very simple on camera, but what that involves is locking down a road, closing off the road, going to all the shops along the road, because you're going to be
Oh yeah.
closing them off for the night. So you have to get everybody's buy-in. You have to get a contract with each of the shops, and maybe if it's a night
Oh.
scene, there's going to be a crane park somewhere, and so you need space for the cranes, and all that's got to get accessed. Yeah, so even if you look at the smallest scenes, there's still 350 guys behind all of that that still have to come into
Right.
that location.
We're still not talking about action
Wow,
scenes,
that's
right?
yeah, that's a whole different story. Once we start getting stunts and action involved, you really have to get everybody. Yeah, then you have to start getting permission from the city, and you have to, everybody, if you're going to roll a car in the middle of the street, for example, you're going to do some damage. You're going to have to prepare 3 days before. You're going to have to rehearse. So all of
Mm.
these things, and the film industry is just an amazing beast. I mean, there's so many people involved, and everybody is like really at the top of their game. And so much
Yeah,
planning goes into the most simplest things. You most of his plan doesn't always work out according to plan, of course, but for the most part, there's always a plan. Each day you have a schedule, you know exactly where you're going to shoot, and there's so much planning that goes into even the simplest of shots that may look
mm.
very simple
And
on the camera, but
uh,
they all take
yeah, it's
work.
amazing. I always think it's a miracle when a movie comes out or a series gets finalized because it's so much work behind it.
Yeah,
And
yes.
when when you prepare the photos and you go on location and then prepare it for the director. Now, is it usually this way around? Is that the location scout will propose something to the director, or does the director give you a brief of what he or she would like to have?
The director does give you a brief, and there are quite a few people involved in that, and also the designer is also very much involved. The person that designs like kind of the set and the look of the film, as well
Mm.
as the director of photography, who's the DIP, who's going to be also being responsible for how it comes across on film, whether it be lighting or whether it be how everything is lit up, and he needs access to light it properly. So there's quite a lot of different kinds of input. So if you want to shoot, for example, oh gosh, I don't know, in a desert area, or in a
Yeah,
very let's rather say like a confined area, it might look brilliant. The director might love the look, but the director of photography say, well, look, I can't actually light it properly because there's no space for a machine, or there's no space for lights. So there's quite a
I see.
and the stunt guy could say, oh look, yeah, I can't actually roll a car in the street because there's no space to speed up the car. So even though the director might like the look of the place, sometimes the practicality of the place has an influence, which you don't really know
Has
until you have
limits.
everybody's
Mm.
input. But generally, the
Yeah.
director knows what he wants and what he's looking for, and of course, he is the boss. So if he
Okay.
likes, for example, if he likes a location, say he likes a beach, but the beach is 40 kilometers into a bush, and he says,
Mm.
but he wants to film there because he loves that, then you have to make it work. So it could be that you have to, I mean, you can, I'm talking about extreme now, but, and if you have the budget, of course, if he likes a beach that is 40 kilometers, either you've got to build a road or you've got
Mhm.
to arrange a helicopter. You've got to figure out not just locations, of course. There's quite a few people involved in doing the logistics for something like that. It definitely you've got to find a way to get there.
Yeah.
And
I
that's
mean,
yeah. So
if
the director
yeah,
is the boss.
it's definitely is yeah. Ultimately, yeah, I do recall that also from from my older times at Black Sails and other movies. But now, you've been doing this for quite a while. We met in South Africa, and you have many years now of experience. How did you start? How did you get involved?
In locations, I got involved in kind of film as such. Like I went traveling, like we all do. I went traveling, and I wound up in Canada, and then through sort of a set of friends, I met some people who gave me a job doing music videos in Toronto. And and that
Mm.
was in the art department. That's how I started off in the film business as such. I went to Australia for a few years, and I got a job in a set construction company building sets and stuff. Then
Okay.
and then it was just by pure chance that I had a friend who lives in the Bahamas, and there was a film going to the Bahamas. So Pirates of the Caribbean were going there, so I flew over to the Bahamas, and I got a job as a PA, and eventually they gave me a job in locations. And then I
Mm.
thought, oh, I really like this. I mean, I can't say I was brilliant at it at the time because I didn't really know what I was doing, but um, I just loved it. I just loved that idea of kind of being really involved in the logistics of film. I kind of really like I discovered that I really like that kind of logistics, and I got a job there, did that for a year, and then came back to South Africa, and I guess kind of started from the beginning again, but then hooked up with with eventually after a couple of jobs. I got together with somebody who I worked with for a very long time, and he was a brilliant, clever man, Mick Snell, and he kind of took me under his wing and showed me, all the good things about working in locations, and yeah, I've been in it ever since.
Oh, fantastic. When I think of your job, I always, when I'm in front of my computer, I've been 8 hours in the day in front of my laptop. I say, "Oh, I wish I could have Rico's job right now, outdoors and doing driving and being on set and just be free." Now, how much time do you spend in front of a computer in your job?
Well, I guess it also kind of depends on where your responsibility lays. If so, like for example, currently I am just helping out, so I would be an assistant. So no time on the computer. Mostly everything's spent on set, but
Mm.
coming in South Africa, where we, was the location manager, where the
Yeah.
kind of the responsibility sits on you, it's a different ball game. And then I would say, well, geez, like about 15 hours a day, 15 hours a day,
Yeah.
and then on the Saturdays, because everything changes so like every department, you have your responsibility, and if you don't get the location right and for example you don't get you present a location to somebody and okay, oh, we're going to be shooting at this beautiful hotel and and director goes, he loves it, the art department go, they take measurements, they start building sets, they start planning everything, and the days go and the days tick by and everybody's ready to go. You've got to make sure that that location is ready,
Mm.
which involves a lot of paperwork. And
Yeah.
so I do sit in front of the computer a lot. There are, of course, the times when, and then, spending a lot of time going to visit that site often just to make sure that you've spoken to everybody and that everybody's on board, because the worst part of the job is when everything is set up and ready to go. And for some reason, maybe the location owner, or it could be an environmental thing, it could be the neighbors that are not interested in you filming there anymore. It could be a community. There could be anything that could change that. And the worst thing of the job is when everything is going, you 3 or 4 days just before you shoot, and they come and say, actually, no, we don't want you to film here anymore. That is the worst.
And they may do it. I mean, they have the right to do it.
They absolutely have the right to do it, yes. Yeah, yeah. And
Mm.
it could be also external forces. It could be that you're shooting at on somebody's farm, and there could be that the community for some reason have a problem with the farmer, and they don't want you to come there because I don't know, they don't want trucks on their road, or they don't want the dust to get
Mm.
kicked up and ruin their crop. Or there's so many things that people could object to, especially I guess when you're filming in a location that gets used often. You know,
Yeah.
there will always be a location that gets used often because it's a unique location, which could be like an old manor house, or it could be
Yes. Mm.
a beautiful garden, it could be a lovely beach, but it's within like a community of people. And you go there often enough, and then after a while, the guy's like, we're actually so sick of having to get locked in traffic, or we can't get parking, or a shop may say, oh, you guys keep on shooting in our street over here, and I'm losing business every time. And so there
Yeah.
are quite a few reasons for people to not to allow you to come filming in a place. And I get it.
So
I
there's lots
completely
of,
understand it.
yeah, lots of variables, and yeah,
Lots of
maybe some,
variables. Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly.
And what would you say are the skills that you mostly use, that you say, okay, this in order to be a location scout or location manager, you need to be this and that,
Probably.
or to have,
No, no, no,
special
I hear
skills.
you.
Yeah.
I would say, I guess you have to have some kind of a good way of with people. A lot of times, if you're looking for a location that you'd like to shoot at, sometimes you have to just go knocking on somebody's door, and you may be looking for, let's say you're looking for a manor house, and you're driving around these wealthy neighborhoods, looking for this lovely manor house, and then sometimes you can just see it through the gate, and you have to ring the doorbell, and you have to say, hi, my name's Rico. I work for a movie company, and I'd love to come and have a look at your house. So you can just imagine how, I mean, coming from a country like South Africa, where it can be a little bit unsafe, you have to kind of convince that person, first of all, just to come to the gate, and then to also convince them that, it's safe. And then, of course, what happens is then after they meet you and they let you into your house and you take photographs, and then they've got to welcome the director who comes to look at it next, and then just like a whole array of more people that come just to come and have a look at their location. So you have to be quite good with people, I believe. You have to be very organized and precise. I mean, I can't say that I'm always organized and precise, but I try to be, and that's why you spend all this time on the computer.
Okay.
And yeah, I think, I mean, mostly it's just and building relationships with people like the film office, because you obviously need to go to the film office, and building relationships with like traffic officers and stuff like that, because you work very closely with them. We have a saying, you're only as good as your last job. So if, for example, something
That's
goes
true.
wrong, whether it's your fault or not your fault, you were like, oh, but last time you were on that job, there was, this went wrong, or something went, so you always, oh, all right, you always get remembered for the last. So building up relationships, and I guess the other skills, yeah, I guess just trying to take good photographs, I suppose, to present, and try to, yeah, work with everybody to get like to the end result. And yeah, I guess it's just, yeah,
Yeah.
I don't really know how to answer that actually.
No, no, that's enough for me. I mean, of course, it makes sense all you're saying, because yeah, it's very important to be in relationships and to, yeah, and especially because in your job, like, and also in any other department, it's really like a word of mouth. Once you are in a job and then you're doing a good job, then you don't need your CV. You don't need to knock at doors. They'll just call you, right?
Yeah, yeah, yes. I don't think I've been on an interview for, it feels like 10 or 12 years. Yeah,
So you
it's
basically, what happens? Like, you finish a job, or even before the job finishes, do you get like phone calls and say, okay, there's another one. Do you want to go to New Zealand or something like that?
correct, correct, yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not always, of
And
course.
who
Sometimes
is it usually? Like the locations manager who tells you, or the producer?
a location manager, most likely. Especially in the past when I was working for a location manager, we would just, go from job to job. And then, now you just, I guess it's people that you've worked with before, really, in any kind of
Mm,
aspect, whether it just be the guy that you worked with on a set, maybe, or a producer, or a production company that you've worked for before, like, oh, you've done that job and you did well on that job, and now we've got another project coming
right.
up. Are you available to do this one? It's
Yeah.
kind of like a whole bunch of ways. I mean, yeah, so like New Zealand was, we worked here a year ago, and I kind of met some people and I know some people here, so that was just, I was just brought in because of that, and knowing
Okay.
people, I guess.
Okay, because that is amazing, like the way that the film industry works. Now, how do you get that first job? If someone wants to start a career and is right at the beginning, maybe you finish high school or you finish university or a film school, and then all your doors are open. But then, how do you get that first job? Because it's such a closed world, right?
Yes, I feel like there are probably like maybe two ways. The first way, the most obvious way, I suppose, would be to go and study film, and there are various institutions that offer film. I think most of the people that go into film school, they probably want to go high up. They probably want to be mostly directors or producers, and they learn all that stuff from film school. And
Mm,
then I guess that gives them a slight advantage about above going into film. But in my mind, and I think you'll speak to anybody from any department in film, it's a person's attitude. And I think if you really wanted to get into film, but you weren't quite sure what department you wanted to get into, in my mind, well, how I did it in the beginning, and I've suggested to a lot of people, is you just volunteer your time. You just go, look here, I will come and work here with you for 1 week, and you don't have to pay me, and I will make you coffee and carry your lighting gear, and people just
mm,
get to see your personality, because attitude is really is the most, just you work such long hours. You're there from, I don't know, sometimes from 5 o'clock in the morning, and you leave, you do 14 or 15 hours. You leave at night, you go home, you get up, you do it all again, and
mm.
you work with this, with this group of people for, I don't know, 5 or 6 months. Attitude is very
Yeah.
important. You've got to try. I mean, you can't always stay positive, but you've got to try to keep positive for the most time, and be energetic and want to do things. And yeah, those are the guys that really do well. So I would say that there's also some agencies that you can join. In South
Mm,
Africa, we have a few agencies that you can join, and they can set you up to start off in different departments. But
okay.
for me, I just love it when somebody comes to me and goes, listen, yeah, I really wanted to go to locations. I've been working in this department, but I really like locations, and I'll work with you for 1 week for free, and you can see how I do. I feel, yeah, that is a way to get in. I won't say
As a
you don't have to have qualifications. I mean, I didn't have any qualifications. It's, there's just a lot of, there's probably a lot of people out there that maybe haven't got qualifications, but are maybe just didn't, especially in the film industry, didn't quite conform to the system, I suppose, but are super smart, super bright, and work really hard, very, very hard. You don't have to have those qualifications to succeed in film. You just have to have that attitude.
Yeah, right attitude.
Yeah, right attitude,
That's
yes.
that's awesome. And what's next for you? Like, are you happy with your job? Would you like to continue, or do you
Absolutely.
have
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
different? Yeah.
Yes, I can't see doing anything else. I mean, like all jobs, you have your good and your bad days, but the good
Yeah.
days are very amazing. I mean, you get to go to just the most amazing locations that you would never be able to access in the normal world. Whether it's a restricted army base, or whether it's, I don't know, a beautiful forest in the middle of nowhere that belongs to somebody, or going to the deserts,
Fantastic.
and you just go to, and then you just work with such extraordinary people, and yeah, it's just amazing. I love it.
Yeah, super. Yeah, I'm very jealous and very happy for you.
And
And
I
I
guess,
wish you all the best.
and of course,
Yeah. No, say yes.
the other nice thing about being locations, if you go knock on somebody's door and said, "Oh, I'd love to see your house," I'd obviously tell you to go away. But if you say, "Well, I'm actually here to scout for a film," it opens
And
up
then things
it
change.
opens up a lot of doors. So you
Yes,
get to
that's
see, and
true.
you go, sometimes it might not be the right location, but you get to see the most amazing places and meet some really incredible people. There are times when the guy's obviously very apprehensive to let you in the door, but after a half an hour, he's asking you to sit down and have a glass of wine with you. There's something about that I really love.
Fantastic. Amazing. And one last question, just out of curiosity, let's say you need to bring 10 locations for a film. How many locations do you visit for 10?
Phew, wow, that's well, it depends. Sometimes you can look for a location, you can visit 20 places and they're just not good enough. And a lot of times, to be quite honest, when you walk into, if you say, for example, you've looked through this doorway and you see this lovely house, you think, I wonder what it looks inside there. And you get there, as you walk through that door and you look at that house, you know that it's not the right house. But
Mm,
you have to take the photos anyway, because of course you're there and you have to present stuff all the time.
yes.
So sometimes you can look for a location for weeks, months, and not
Oh,
find the right one. And sometimes the director can say, "Oh, I'm looking for this wonderful beach," and you go, "Okay, listen, I've got a photograph of this amazing beach. You can access it. It's private." And you show the photograph. The director goes, "Oh, that's it. I like that." So it
mm,
really varies. I guess it also varies from country to country. Like a place like South Africa, for example, and in the script it's supposed to be, I don't know, Switzerland. You've got
yeah.
to get very creative with the types of houses that you find, because there's not much that looks like Switzerland in South Africa, or like an American street. So that's when the art department come in. They can take the basics that you present and then they can turn it into something magical, which those guys, they work the magic. They can turn a normal street into any kind of street. But sometimes and it's very stressful when you can't. This is the other thing that people don't realize. They think, oh, scouting is lovely. You just drive around and visit these places, which is lovely, of course. But when you're not finding the right location and the
Mm,
time is ticking, and the art department need to start building things and creating things for that space, then then it can be a little bit tricky.
yeah. And a bit stressful, yeah,
And
because you gotta
a bit
bring your
stressful.
result
Yes,
for
exactly.
the others. Yeah,
Correct.
yeah.
So yeah, it's
It's
hard to
really
it's,
like a
it's hard to
teamwork.
say.
Yeah.
Sometimes you find the location straight away, and sometimes you don't find the location. And if unfortunately if you don't find the correct location, it has to become a set build in a studio or something, which costs the production much more money to build something that you can't
Mm,
find. So
that you can't have. Yeah.
yeah,
Rico, it's been so interesting. Unfortunately, our time is going, and I want to thank you so much for waking up, first of all, on a Sunday morning in New Zealand on your off day. I really appreciate it. Love you so much, and all the best for you. I look forward to our next chat in a few years' time.
thanks, and all the best to you in the lovely
Thank you.
Switzerland.
Thank you so much. And if you have other, friends or colleagues who want to be interviewed, I'm all for it. I still have lots of positions in the film industry I haven't covered yet in my podcast.
They'll fill your boots.
So, you might have never thought of becoming a location scout, but if what drives you is the film industry, seeing amazing locations around the world, and if you have an exploratory spirit and are keen to meet new, incredible people all the time, then I suggest you look into this line of work. Stay tuned, because there are more attractive jobs coming up for you.